everybody. Welcome to Community Conversations. I'm happy to have everybody here at the location. We will be back in HSP 101 next week. That's our normal spot. It's just occasionally this room work we're doing. So thank you for following us where we need to go. And remember that you can always check our recordings. We put those up usually the day after, sometimes the Monday after, so that you can see what we've been doing. So please join us again next week. In the meantime, I want to introduce today's speaker or presenter or facilitator. Sure. Betsy Richard. Betsy Richard teaches drama and directs theater productions, 3 theater productions a year at LCC. She completed her undergraduate work at CUNY for acting training at the National Shakespeare Conservatory and holds a master's degree in applied theater and directing from Eastern Michigan University. In 2017, Betsy completed Theater for the Oppressed facilitator training with David Diamond. Prior to LCC, Betsy taught and directed at Central Michigan University, worked locally with Artist Repertory Theater, Oregon Children's Theater, which my daughter did, and the Oregon Shakespeare Festival. Favorite projects that utilized applied theater techniques include Race, How Blacks and Whites Think and Feel About the American Obsession, which toured Metro Detroit schools, and the wrestling season here at North Columbia College. Please welcome Betsy Richard.
Thank you. Thank you all so much for being here today. And thank you to the Zoom audience. This may be a little bit different experience for you today, but I really appreciate and I'm grateful that you're Zooming in with us either today or in the future. So welcome. Just a reminder or a question. Hi, Kate, come on in. You can find us, please. At the door over there is some hand sanitizer, masks, if anyone would like to contact the one on. And in a minute, we're going to talk about some things that'll make us all feel more comfortable in this space. And so we'll talk about my wearing masks. Come on in, come up on the stage, please. Welcome. There's plenty of space, and I have more chairs if you need them. So, as you've heard, one of my specialty areas is in what's called applied theater. And applied theater is an umbrella term. Welcome, come on in. There's plenty of space up here on stage with us. This one right here, and then we have a whole stack.
Say yours.
No, I'm not. So applied theater is a field of study within theater that takes drama techniques and applies it to many different places. And one of the most common areas that you might be familiar with, you may have heard of something called drama therapy that psychologists use with patients to help them to enact maybe moments that they're struggling with. And they can practice before they get into a moment the next time, or if they anticipate they're going to, if there's a problem to. That's one application you might be familiar with. Another application would be in education, particularly with young children. We use drama techniques all the time because they are, kids learn by doing, by playing. And really, theater is play. So the work that we're going to be doing today, that I am going to ask you to participate in, enjoy together today, is based on the work of Augusto Boal, who based his work on the educational philosopher Paulo Freire, who's a educational giant from Brazil. And one of the quotes that I have for Freire is, the teacher is, of course, an artist. But being an artist does not mean that he or she can make the profile, shape the student. What the educator does in teaching is to make it possible for students to become. So this is kind of, I hope, encapsulated some of the viewpoint of the stance that Freire has. Could you join us up on stage? Come on up, guys, another chair. Thank you. You are in the right place and we're welcome. So Augusto Boal, who's also Brazilian, worked with Freire, and Freire wrote a book called The Pedagogy of the Oppressed. And Boal developed the theater techniques based on those ideas that Freire. Coincidentally, this was about in the 1950s. This was happening in Brazil, which is under very authoritarian dictation. And Freire saw a lot of opportunities, as did Boal, for social change, for changing things. And at the same time, coincidentally, around the world, there were things going on as well. In the United States, we had a big educational movement, and there was a lot of civil unrest in the 50s and 70s. And theater was right at the forefront of it, helping those things to move forward, to change. Theater seems to survive no matter what. We have hundreds of years of theater history where we don't hear anything about it because there aren't plays. But we know people were telling stories and doing theater. There were plagues that shut down the theaters, for instance, in Shakespeare's time, for 2 years. Sounds a little familiar to us. But theater rose up again. The theaters were all shut down because there were places where people could communicate diseased ones. Right? So just like those years during the Elizabethan time, our theaters have happened with our doors shut. Many theater practitioners, artists have lost their jobs, as have a lot of people. I don't need to say. I did not was pretty tough. But theater comes back. And it is through the work of these giants in the theater, the people that work in the United States. There's a woman named Viola Spolin, who's a very famous person in the world of theatrical improvisation and working with children. Viola Spolin said in her book Improvisation for the Theater, which she published, the quote I pulled from her is, work with the student where he is, not where you think he should be. That's something many of us in education are saying all the time. And she found a way to practice it with him for art. Then I also sought to look at some other artists that theater is informed by other kinds of art, by writing and music. And the idea that Miles Davis says, do not fear mistakes, there are none. And we really need to hold that to us today. There's no mistakes. Everything we do today is inspiration. And then the other thing I want you to think about, I talked a little bit about play. And that when we're children, when something happens, I was talking to my son about this, because I don't know, it's like you reach 18 and it's over. You better put on the mantle of an adult, get a job, support yourself, take charge. And that idea of play is gradually sort of little by little. The idea that we can make mistakes and the consequences for making mistakes, if we make them when we're younger and we're allowed to make mistakes, then we learn from those mistakes. Science is based on mistakes, right? It's through mistakes that the things. The last quote I want to today is from a poem by E.E. Cummings. And in this poem, E.E. Cummings says, and down they forgot, as up they were. Thought they were, as they were. So today, what I'm hoping is that we can ignite play. This session today is totally a beginning session. I'm hoping that you will feel comfortable in joining in. I will not ask you to do backflips or dance. Somebody asked about that. Come on in, we'll get another chair for you. Welcome. Sorry, you probably went to the other space and then had to come here. So before we get started, I've talked a little bit, but I want to ask the group if there's anything that you would like to have said out loud so that you can feel more comfortable. Right, I'm not going to do it. But do you need masks? Does anyone need to be in a mask? Okay, those that want to wear them are wearing. There's hand sanitizer and is there anything else that anyone would like to say? You're like, okay, I can do that.
How similar is this going to be your drama class?
I don't know. Because I don't know.
High school?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe very soon, maybe.
Will we be touching each other?
No. Thank you for bringing that up. There will be no touching today. We will be doing exercise. But we're going to ask you to touch. Boel's work, actually, it's foundational that we do touch. So we have a cover of it, and when we start working so Boel says that when we touch, we know one another in a different way. It increases our ability to stop talking and to speak. So touch is actually a big part of it in mental space and modify what makes you. Anything else? I'm going to ask you, as we, in 2 minutes, to put down your notes. If you want to know what you did today, I will send you my lesson. I like to start on I scratch things out, and then I type them out. I'd be happy to share that with you.
And my students, that is okay. You don't have to think.
Today, it is the doing that you will learn. It's getting up and doing it a try, and you will learn. I don't know what you'll learn, but you'll learn something. Okay? I'd also ask, and you know what this is. You do it every day. That we're respectful, we're mindful of other people, and as we move along, as we let go of our own agitation over being here and being asked to do something we weren't prepared to do, that we take in our peers here and we take care of each other. We hold them. That's work. So we'll use respectful language. I am going to ask you questions as we move along. And I think unless anybody else has anything they want to add. Great. So the first thing I want is to have nothing like that. And we're going to play a violin solo game that you may have played downstairs. I'm trying to stay on the 7th grade Zoom. So what I want you to do is do exactly what I'm doing. Exactly what I'm doing. Mimicry is the basis of theater. We mimic. Start. Do what I'm doing. If someone came into the room who was watching us, would they know who the leader is? Why not? Great. Would they know? Why? Okay, so as the leader, I would want you to be able to keep up. Anything else that would give it away?
We're all looking at you.
You're all looking at me. Yeah, you're all making eye contact. So I want you to continue to do what I'm doing. want you to try not to look just where else can you still do that.
Follow the instructor.
And just give it a try. So I'm going to ask a volunteer to go right around the corner. You want to go? Okay, great. You go behind the wall. Well, Lucas is out of the circle. We're going to choose a new leader. Then Lucas is going to come back into the center of the circle, and he's going to have 3 guesses to try and figure out who the new leader is. We're not going to use our voices to find the new leader. We're going to do it together without using the voice, because we don't want Lucas to know. So if you are willing to be the leader, keep your hands up. If you would prefer not to be the leader. Now, negotiate with one another and let's find a leader. If you're willing to be the leader, keep your hands up. And if you're not going to be the leader, just drop your hands down. We will eventually find one leader. So drop your hands down. There you go. Great. Everybody see who the leader is. Great. Let's go ahead and begin. Be careful when Lucas is outside the circle. It's easy for him to see who the leader is. Come on. Try to walk for a minute. Yeah, just give us a little space. I'm coming to the center. Okay. You have 3 guesses to figure out. Okay, great. Wow. How did you know? What did you see?
I saw a little bit of delay between people, but it always seemed to happen.
Okay, so it was the speed at which our leader was going. Great. We all were working together really, really well. I was impressed with the quality of the air in the room. Really. Would you mind going out? Same thing. Lucas, can you take that seat? If you're willing to be the leader, you can. If you don't want to be the leader, hands it down. As we negotiate for a leader, we'll have one person left with their hands up. So if you're willing to let someone else drop your hands, we now have a leader. Does everyone see who the leader is? Great. You can go ahead and begin. We're going to skip through here. Great. You have 3 guesses to find. No, it's not. You have 2 more guesses. Wow, the group worked so well together. Fabulous. So the first person you picked was Anna. Wow. Steve seemed a little quicker.
Yeah. It was a lot harder to say.
Did you feel that in the room?
Because I was
Okay. Sometimes our brain makes decisions based not necessarily on what we're seeing in the moment, but on things that influence us. Important.
because of the instructor. And
Okay.
there was a break, and I saw from the corner of my eye, some people were- but then,
A power dynamic.
yeah,
Yeah, very interesting. So, I don't know your name. Linda was our leader. Does that surprise you?
well, I picked this.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And that was really interesting, because the people you picked were directly opposite of Linda, mother. Yeah, helpful. Really great.
But it really helped, because everyone was looking over here, so I was like, hey, let's go with the crowd.
Okay, great. That's just really wonderful. Okay, the next thing I want to do today is, you can just take that. I'm going to ask you to stay within the circle of the chairs. And I just want you to move around a little. And it's a little different for those of you that have taken acting class from me than when I usually teach cover the space. So just follow the directions for today. You're going to move into the space, trying to keep distance, right? We're trying to stay, do some social distancing. But at all times, if there's, the space is covered, if not everybody's on one side or on the other, but that we fill in and we have bodies sort of covered. Correct? As we continue, I'll be using directions as I have them, kind of side teaching you, telling you things. You don't need to stop what you're doing. Just listen to my voice and try and do it. So, when I say cover the space, all the start moving, I'm going to try and put out the space, and I'm going to ask you to stop. Go ahead. And stop. Just look and see how we're doing. Just look and see how we're doing pretty well. So continue to move and try to make. Nice. I see people moving into places where they're. Great. And stop. See how we- Check it out. The next thing I'd like is look around the room. And I want you to put yourselves in groups without talking, no talking, based on what you're wearing from the waist up. Based on what you're wearing from the waist up. If you need to be alone, you are welcome. So put yourself in groups without talking, based on what you're wearing from the waist up. Terrific. And you make a decision, you make your own decision to do whatever you want. If someone adds and you think, oh, yeah, we can do it. Or I have to leave the group. Okay? Terrific. Everybody done making the choice? Why are you here alone?
There's a little one more t-shirt.
I think we're similar jacket kind of thing. Yes.
And the color.
And the color too is very similar. Here. Okay, okay, blue. Blue. Okay, great. So all the kind of blue colors together. And here,
Long sleeves.
long sleeves. I noticed a color similarity as well. Yeah, right.
Oh, man.
How are you two together? Great. And kind of the style of the garment?
And stop. See if you need to adjust. I don't want to lose sight of our covering the space too. That's great. Thank you. Now I'd like you to put yourselves in groups without talking based on what's on your feet. What's on your feet? And put yourselves in groups based on that. Great. Okay, it looks like we have 3 groups. Are you alone? Great. So say that again. Slip on you. And yours are gloves. Perfect. And where are you off And this group? Great. Terrific. Cover the space. And stop. Terrific. This time I'd like you to put yourselves in groups based on the color of your hair. The color of your hair. And you, wherever you need to be, that is where you are. You can be alone. All right. We are proud white-haired folk. Yes. Okay. How about this group here? Okay.
We're moving on up to white.
You got caught in there. That's okay. And you needed to be alone.
No, I needed a handkerchief.
Oh. Well, good. I'm glad you took care of yourself. All right, and cover the space. And stop. All righty. And the last thing I want you to do, this one's a little challenging. Try not to talk. You may have to get a little closer. Can you put yourselves in groups based on the color of your eyes? And there could be ways to communicate this without, getting 6 inches from your partner. Ah. All right, is everyone happy with where they are? Okay, and I think I have a group here, 2 here, 2 here, is that right? And 3 back there. Okay, let's find out what we have in the room. Ah, okay, great. And what are you? Blue. Okay. What are you? Is it hazel or just light brown? No. Okay. Okay. That's all right. Sometimes we have 2 groups. That's all right. All right. And go ahead and cover the space. And stop. And I would like you to look around the room and whoever is nearest to you. In the old days, we would shake hands and introduce ourselves, but we're not going to shake hands today. But I'd like you to find someone near you, and I would like you to introduce yourselves to that person. Great, so you introduce yourself to this person. Now what I'd like you to do is one of you is going to be A and one of you is going to be B. So decide who is A. And I'll be B. All right. Could all the A's raise their hands? Great. I have 2 A's. Okay. I just want to make sure. And now all the B's raise their hands. I'm sorry, I probably confused you.
I didn't hear you.
Okay, so we're going to do an exercise that many of you may have done called the mirror exercise. And what I would like you to do is find a place that you can be within your circle, where you just have a little space, about 2 arms length away from each other, and you're facing your partner. And Katie and I are going to demonstrate what you're going to do, and then I will ask you to do that. So Katie's going to be my mirror. You can put your hands up for a moment just while we demonstrate. Katie's going to mirror me and do exactly that. Similar to what we did in the big. We're going to start with A being the mover and B being the mirror. All right. As you move along, I'm going to ask you to switch. And I will say switch in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, switch. The goal would be that the movement never stops, that we transition from the person that's leading to the mirror. Make sense? Okay, let's give it a shot. So A is the leader, B is the mover. And you can start whenever you're ready. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1, switch. D is now the mover. 3, 2, 1, switch. A is the mirror, B is the mover, and B is the mirror. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1, switch. Make sure you're breathing. I'm going to count from 5 to 1, and I'm going to say freeze. I want you to use all 5 counts and find a place where you end, where your fingers are all 5, 4, 3, 2, 3. Hold to freeze. Stay with the partner. And you can talk to your partner.
I did.
Okay. So I want to draw your attention back to the big group. What were some things that you discovered in doing that? Anything you discovered about yourself or your partner?
It felt good to breathe together.
Did you find yourself doing that? great.
I made an assumption about. She went like this,
Uh-huh.
and I assumed maybe she was a Star Trek fan, but she said no, it is.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a Star Trek fan.
That's such, see, but that is such a great, we all see the same thing,
Yeah.
but there's so many ways you can see it,
Yeah.
right? Wonderful, wonderful. I'm so glad you have a conversation. Anything else?
The switch was like, pretty, normal
Mm-hmm.
after the first one. All of them, right into each other. You were like two.
How did that feel?
It's good.
Yeah.
She's good.
I dare say you are as well. Any other observations?
I need to pay attention. So I thought I was happy.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I need to speak more clearly. Did that get sorted out or did that
Yeah,
continue?
once you became the
Great. Okay, I'm so sorry. Thank you for sharing that. Do you prefer, how many of you liked being the leader? A lot. Who liked being the leader? Okay, you did.
I always like.
Why?
Well, when we start them, I like to share ideas and I like to watch people execute ideas. Let's try this, let's try that. Let's do
Okay.
something different.
Okay,
Oh,
so that
let's
makes
do
you feel
something different.
comfortable. That makes you feel comfortable.
Well, I like to do everything that I never did before.
Okay,
My bucket list, you can't find the end of it.
well, good. Maybe you're scratching one off today.
There you go.
Any other folks that like being here? How come? Okay,
Always have.
okay,
She knows.
okay.
Well, I enjoy being the leader, but I also enjoy being followed.
Ah.
So for me, it's
What's the difference? Why? I mean, we enjoy them both, but for the same reason or for different reasons?
different areas of my life. All of them,
Mhm.
I can put myself into.
Great, great. Any,
I think I like the communication, especially switch in and out.
right,
I think that's
cool.
I think the leader, you have to think.
Mm,
Sometimes you don't want to think so much.
yeah,
So when you're a follower,
absolutely.
you're in a different position, which is different.
Yeah, to be able to give that over to someone else. Okay. Okay. There is a sense of control when you're the leader, isn't there? Yeah, yes, a sense of, I mean, power may be too big a word, but certainly control. Anyone else have anything to add with being the leader versus the follower?
But I also kind of control a lot. And so right now, power it's great on leading
Yes, it can be a relief.
and disengage.
Did anyone notice or take in anything? Did you have to be mindful of how your partner could move?
I talked a little bit about that. I'm I don't want to push her.
Did you have to put it- Wonderful. Good, good. Yes, because you might have been with a partner that wanted to do, and then that. Yeah,
Yeah, I've got that. So it's like, I was doing the shifting thing, but also.
but you were adjusting. And that brings us to a point I didn't say before we start. You always have the option to adjust what you do. Always, always. Through the company.
Yeah, I have some.
Mhm.
That's ironic. It's age, but ironically, she's done.
Oh, I agree. going back into muscle memory because that.
Yes. If you've done Tai
Yoga.
Chi
Yeah,
or
yoga.
yoga, yes.
Whereas I've never done it. So
Yeah.
For me, it was more difficult.
And our bodies are, everybody's bodies are so different. Great. So the next thing I want you to do, and I want you to stay with your partner for this, is we're going to explore the nature of story. Story is in all parts of our lives, and it's certainly a huge part of the theater. So I want you to think for a moment, just take a second, to think about a story, a brief story. You're going to have 2 minutes, which is actually, for some of us, it's a long time, for some of us, it's a short time. So you're going to have 2 minutes, and I want you to tell your partner a story about a time when you were afraid, There is no contest with this story. We don't want you to dig down deep and, bring up, that's not the purpose of the story. It's a small sharing. It's a sharing that I feel comfortable today in this moment, sharing with my partner. It might be something that happened a long time ago. It might be something that happened yesterday. So it might be something that happened when you walked into this room, but just a moment in time when you were fearful. The way it will work is I'm going to ask A to begin by telling their story first, and B will listen. You are not going to have to repeat the story, but I do want you to be actively listening. And A, let's say you get done with your story in 45 seconds. Go back and keep adding in details to the story. So you have 2 minutes to talk. I will actually time it for us so we know when 2 minutes to talk. And then we'll switch, but we'll only switch after 2 minutes, okay? How are you doing on thinking of something when you were fearful? Remember, it doesn't have to be a heart-wrenching tale. Okay. Anybody feel like they need more time? Okay, we'll get started. So A is going to tell their story to B. And you can begin.
Start with that. I really don't like being so happy. And I really don't like heights. I don't like anything that gives me the adrenaline. Typically, in my adrenaline is kind of active, morning. That's my other adrenaline. So when I was 13, I was in Disneyland with my family. And for me, I was just afraid opportunity. Like, afraid that I could go and experience this. But also, I can't go through experience. So I was like, really have a big this. So full time it was a drama team and anything. But I did first say I really like help myself. That's what I do. It's basically like great for me, right? My mom told me when I was interested in morning science that I would read it because I don't just read it and realize, oh my gosh, all these things and I have my favorites. But we got on it and then the dog broke down right before the baby time. And I was sitting there staring at the pine for a good 15, 20 minutes. And I was like, oh my goodness, I was going to get out of the stairs right there. And there's like all the creatures singing around us, just constantly. It was daunting to me at that moment. My perception was a little bit off. And then the rest snuck up. And then I didn't go, or the ghost. Basically, so I stayed on the ride, and then like then it cut my up, and then down the ride, and it's terrifying. Probably wouldn't do it again. But I'm fine with it. We're saying that we have a photo now. It's great.
Finish up the story. Finish up the story.
Oh yeah.
Did everybody get their story told? Some of you may have gone back and added in more details, which is just fine. I hope you got to the end. Great. Yes, only one person needs to tell their story. Okay. Okay, now we're going to go back and we're going to hear B's story. So B, you were engaged in listening to do the same thing. You have 2 minutes to tell your story, and I'll do exactly what I did before and just call out to finish up when the time is up. If you're like me and you'll have your story told in 20 seconds, go back, fill in. Okay? All right. Go ahead and begin. Okay, finish your story. Okay. How did that, what did you learn about your partner? What did you find out? You think we're risk takers or risk takers?
I don't know, that's thinking in those terms.
Okay, that's okay, that's what your partner heard.
So we've got some similarities.
Okay, similarities between the two of you. Okay, yeah. Anything else?
Joe's experience was very similar to some of the.
Oh my gosh,
But that was
that's
Second.
interesting, isn't it? Okay. Any other observations?
Don't be cruel. Cousins, especially snakes.
Okay, great. Mhm.
Yeah, I guess I misunderstood what the person was talking about. So I just asked.
Okay, so you asked for clarification.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great. Did you feel like your partner was listening to you? How'd you know? How did you know your partner? What? Body language. What did it say to you? What was it doing? Great. Okay. Okay.
There's a lot of active listening going on.
Okay.
Eye contact.
Yeah. You know, culturally in the United States, we make eye contact. It's part of what we expect if someone's listening to us, but it's not culturally appropriate. And I always, for me, that's so hard for me to remember in a different cultural atmosphere because I'm so used to doing it. Are we done at 12:30?
12:20-ish, and
So I'm almost done. Okay. I am, because it's 12:20, it's the witching hour. So let's just open up real quick and I don't need to wrap up. I don't think, who is it? Oh yeah, Michael Rode. Michael Rode says wrap-ups are not necessary. You know, to wrap everything up with a bow. we don't need to do that. But I do want to thank you for coming today, and I hope that this little bite of the kinds of work we might build on this work to explore conflict in communities, for instance. But we start with areas of agreement, of sharing, and we progress slowly towards looking at things that might be important to us in the future. So maybe we'll have another session one day and we can take the next step. So thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you all for joining us and for participating. Made you do a little bit more work this time, but I think, I don't know, I got something. But I think everybody else. So thank you to Betsy.
You're welcome. And if you have any questions, I'm going to be here sort of closing shop. I'd be happy to talk to you if you have time and you have energy to ask something. Thanks for coming.